go live, so you probably get the full button.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome everyone to Tea Across the Miles. It is Lady Amy with Houses of Windsor and Lady Nancy with Cup and Crowns. And as you can tell, this is our Christmas edition.
Happy Christmas to
Happy
everyone.
Christmas, yeah.
Happy Christmas.
Yeah, speaking of, on tea time on Friday, Trevor, I made a comment about how the Brits say Happy Christmas. And
Yes.
he's like, what? We say Merry Christmas. I was like, Happy Christmas is really thing. And
Anyways,
so, I know. So then he went into it. He's like, oh, okay. So I still don't think I fully understand the differentiation. But he acted like if you are, uh, like with people, you say like, like Merry Christmas, whatever. But if it's almost like in passing or something, it's like Happy Christmas. I don't know. Like, but this
okay.
just makes a difference
I'm
because
gonna
when
have
you,
to take Trevor's word for it. He's the only actual, British
I
citizen
know, right?
on the
That's
list.
what I know. I laughed. I was laughing. Paolo was on there, and I laughed. I was like, Trevor, I think I would know better than you would.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. That's like my British friend at school, Emma Dauber. I love her so much. And there was something. She has an electric kettle. She was acting as a librarian at the school for a little while, and she says, "Well, I've got a kettle in here," and I said, "It's not even plugged in." And she's like, "Well, that's because I'm drinking coffee in the morning." I said, "I'm telling you,
What?
I'm more British than you are. I am more British." And she jokes, she goes, "I think you are."
Like, right? Yes, I will get my little tea. I put them over. Right.
And you do that, and I'm going to explain the teas if that's all right.
Yes, please
While I
do.
while I also have a hot flash.
Blame it
53
on the
is
tea.
fun. 53 is fun. So yeah, and let me just say, yes, spent my birthday November 3rd. I got sick on November 2nd and ended up nursing a bottle of Advil for 4 days instead of a bottle of Pinot Grigio or Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh,
My husband had plans to take me to this gorgeous country winery. Oh, it was stunning. We finally got to go. But yeah, just the sickness going around was really
ugh.
bad. Does not help when you work in an elementary school. There is no
Well, yeah.
hand sanitizer that is going to keep you from getting ill when you spend the day with a bunch of nose pickers. Just put it out there. Just put it out there. So, I sent Amy and I are more like tea pals. It's not pen pals. We're
Yeah,
tea.
that's right. We're tea pals.
We're tea pals. And in our last, which feels like so long ago, I talked about my travels to Ireland, which was just phenomenal. See my ornaments for the audience right here. And one of the things that I picked up lots of things. So we stayed at many a bed and breakfast and a couple of hotels. And of course, you go in and they have these little trays in your room with a kettle and all these teas. Well, I hoard all the packets of tea.
I love it. I know. I love it.
I bring them all back. I even brought back there was it the Leonardo Hotel in Dublin, right across from Christchurch, and they had a couple packets of teas. They had the Roberts Kenyan tea, which I think I sent you one or two of those.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yeah.
which I've seen before. Lyons is another brand, Lyons,
Mhm.
but this particular hotel also had 2 packets of Cadbury hot chocolate. So I brought those home for my
Oh,
daughter. We had those the other day. They were delish. I'm gonna have to run back to World Market and see if they have any.
that's
Anyway,
wonderful.
so Connemara is one of the areas in Ireland. Well, first I'll show you this. So I brought back a set of these instead of the
Those
little
are adorable.
telephone
Oh,
booze,
so
they're the little
cute.
telephone booze. And that was just your Irish breakfast coffee is what I had. But what I sent you was this darling pack of 3. Let me see.
Yes.
Drop them on the floor. So the first one, and this is the one I'm drinking this morning, is the Irish cream tea.
Okay.
And it's
I've
just,
got.
it is a black tea blend. They're all black tea blends, but this one has a nice cream. Think of Irish Bailey's cream. Now I'm sure I don't know if it's
Okay.
actually Bailey's that's in it, but it does have a creamy quality to it. The
Okay.
second one that I sent you is Irish whiskey tea.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
Yeah.
the leaves are somehow processed with some Irish whiskey. So I don't want to say it has a bite because it's not like a spicy bite, but there's a quality. There is a whiskey quality.
Okay, that's what I say. Yeah, there's a whiskey bite.
Yeah, and it's delicious. And a little extra splash there and there doesn't hurt either. And then there's the Irish wildberry tea, which
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's my favorite, but it really is good. And it reminds me of the black blackberry tea that I love to order
Oh, okay.
so much. So all three delightful, none of them disappoint. They're all very flavorful. You know, there's sometimes you can get a tea and it's like, where is the tea flavor in this? But
Right.
these all pack a punch. I think they're all very significant. So
In what order would you drink them? Because right now I have wild berry, whiskey, and then Irish cream.
I would save that berry for the last.
Okay.
I would start with the whiskey.
Start with whiskey.
Start
Okay.
with the whiskey, yeah, and tell me what you think.
Okay.
So.
Glad I am.
Mhm.
Okay. Take out my tea bag. Um, let's see. Okay, so while I'm prepping my teacup, did we go ahead and dive into The Crown?
Oh, absolutely. You want to start?
And yeah, I was like, I should have put it in the or whatever in the description, but spoiler alert, we're gonna talk about
Right?
the latest fourth episode,
We are.
and we're not holding back.
No.
So, do you have a mental list or a written list?
I don't have either. So it's just, I mean, not prepared. And I'm trying, if I go through the episodes, I remember how it starts. I mean, we're going to start, obviously it starts with the crash in Paris.
Right. Yes. I was surprised. Okay, so with the crash in Paris, I was surprised how much they showed in the sense that, like, on my Royal podcast, they were talking about how they were, like, you know, the creators or whatever of the show were saying how they weren't going to show the crash out of, like, respect to Diana and the family. And so they were talking about, like, they wondered how much they'll actually show. It's like, well, you pretty much showed everything that could be seen. I mean, you showed them going into the
Gruesome.
into the
Absolutely.
tunnel.
They didn't show a wrecked car. You see a speeding car go into the tunnel and you hear it.
Right. But I felt like it was almost more I don't know, graphic or whatever, just the way that they were like bystanders and people talking about it and, like, you know, hearing what they saw and you know, whatever, like
Right.
I just thought it was and it was interesting. I didn't dislike it, but I wasn't expecting that much of the crash to be
it would have just been referred to rather than
or it would be like just like a passing scene, like they wouldn't drag it out of like some guy walking his dog and whatever, right?
like, well, they did. So that's the opening scene is you hear a car crash and you know, Francois, that's what I'm calling, making a phone call. And then they go back to and then it actually becomes like a flashback within a flashback. And they show, and this was the thing that struck me. So I don't know about you probably do, because I know you do the podcast and stuff like that. I do go back and I'm like, is this part true? Did this really happen? The relationship between Charles and Diana seemed to have improved, and they show a conversation, which of course none of us were ever privy to. So, you know, it's more in hearsay or in hope, say, you know, that people,
that's what I say.
That he says, hey, do you think we can do this? Can we be friends? And she makes the sort of cute, but still a stabbing comment of, you know, what, pretend that my Prince Charming didn't get away, something like that. And you know, maybe we can be better at this, you know, as friends or something. So I kind of looked that up to say, and apparently I think, I mean, the rumor is, if you want to call it rumor, but reports are that they had at least become civil. I don't know about friends or friendly. They had become civil for the sake of the boys.
For co-parenting.
And so going forward, when we all know Charles went to Paris to claim her body, and they did portray that he was incredibly emotional about it. He's an emotional man. So I'm surprised that happened. I looked that one up too. Did that really happen? So I don't know. I can't remember what I read, but it was something like, yes, reports are that he, you know, was emotional, but I would imagine the hospital staff would have been very private about that.
I would think so, but I mean, maybe after so many years, people have said things, you know, because I was surprised how they had so many hospital staff, like, just standing in the hallways.
Well, it was Diana, for God's sake, and you know, the future.
Don't you have anybody else you're supposed to be taking care of now? Like,
matter. It's okay. That guy that with the heart attack, don't worry about him. We got Diana in here. He doesn't need us anymore, but we're gonna stand here anyway. I'm being crude.
Oh, I know. That's why I know. I just thought it was funny. So yeah, so they start with all that and the stuff with Charles. Like, I really like uh the the actress, the Queen's acting in it. Just because it was like you could see so much in her face of like she was emoting without emoting, right? Like you could see her eyes water up or whatever, but like she just really has to keep that stiff upper lip even when she's truly upset, you know. I thought she did that really, really well.
Mhm.
And that, and that Charles did a great job too of just whenever he was sort of arguing or pleading with them for whatever it is, and then going off like on his own and screaming and crying and whatever he needed
Mhm.
needed to do. So
Well,
I liked all of that. Yeah.
so much that it's just okay. So first of all, did you ever see The Queen, the movie
Yes.
The Queen?
Mhm.
So my
Mhm.
head kept going back to that. I've seen that movie dozens of times, actually. I
I've
enjoyed that.
only seen it probably the one time, so I would need to rewatch it to see how it compares.
Yes, yes. Um, Harry's book comes to mind when you see Charles go in to tell the boys.
Mhm. Yes, I wondered about that.
How are they going to portray this based on what Harry has put out?
Mhm.
Um, I feel like the Charles in The Crown was a little more generous than what Harry portrayed, and not by much,
Yes.
by a hair.
But I agree, and I think that is uh honestly, it's like, well, there's, that was Harry's side of the story. That's how old was he? 12
Well,
or something. Like, that's a 12-year-old remembering how it felt to him that things happened,
right,
right?
right,
So for all we know, Charles was a little bit more of something, but like that didn't come across to Harry that way. So
possibly,
I think it was fine that they didn't overdo it, you know,
correct,
uh, compared to Harry's book, but they did at least give a little bit more than just like a, pat on the knee.
right.
Like,
What did you think
so
about William disappearing for 12, 11 hours, 17 hours, something
I
like that?
thought that was interesting. I think that's something I didn't look up. Do we know if that really happened?
So I did look that up.
Yeah.
Like, did that really happen? Um, so there were I could not find anything concrete
Right.
saying that. The one article quoted that William said he spent many hours in the Scottish Highlands after his mother died. And for that, he will always have a very special and emotional attachment.
Right. Hmm.
That, but nothing really concrete. And if he did go off for a little bit, there was no confirmation that it was for like hours on end and everybody had to send out a search party.
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. So, by the way, what have you sipped?
Oh, I've sipped all of them. So, um, so the whiskey one is good, and you're right. There's some. It's hard to explain. Some
It's a
whiskey quality
quality.
to it.
It's a
Yeah.
quality.
Mhm.
I don't know what else to say about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's good. I really like the Irish cream.
Cheers. Absolutely.
That one's really, really good. And then I like the berry too. It smells so good
It
also.
does smell good. It is. It has a very good berry flavor. It's
It's
not
really good.
not cheap. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so a splash of eggnog, a splash of Bailey's in the Irish
Yeah.
cream also goes quite well.
I did bring milk out today, so I have
Oh,
milk in my 2 for 1. But I'll say on a chilly day in Florida, it's 60 degrees. It's sunny.
it is
But it
chilly
was
for you guys.
but it was in the
Lovely.
60s.
We were down there for
But like,
Thanksgiving.
see, I was wearing like a vest this morning at BNI and like furry boots. um, and like when I got home, I literally like took off the vest. I was like, oh, it's chilly now. And that's when I was like, oh, I'll wear a Santa hat.
I love the Santa hat. And I have of which I oh my gosh. So my first day back, as I said, I've been sick for a couple of weeks. My first day back was last Friday, and I did not know, and I wish the staff would tell me this because I'm there often enough. It was hat day. And I didn't know that. I have no less than 11 hats, 9 fascinators, and at least 3 Santa hats and 2 pairs of antlers that I could have worn. And I was hatless. The tea lady was hatless. I was not
right.
like,
oh
it
my God.
me.
Right. Oh wow.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, the day before Thanksgiving break, and I bring a big fat lunch, and they're like, "Oh, didn't I tell you there's a big Friendsgiving lunch up in the state?" No, that would have been helpful.
No one told me. Yeah.
I'm part of the staff, but I'm not. I'm kind of like the nanny in Victorian times. I'm like not downstairs. I'm not really upstairs. I'm just kind of in between. They don't tell me about things like hat day and Friendsgiving lunches.
Right. That's amazing. So we actually, so at tea time, we were talking about nannies and maids actually on Friday because I forget how it came up, but Trevor's in Brazil and Paula's from Peru, and we're just talking about differences of things growing up. Oh, I think I had mentioned about like parenting and how Piper's stepmom, her family's originally from India, but they moved to Tanzania for a while growing up, and they had nannies there. Like I just know she's mentioned like referencing when we're doing co-parenting stuff. Right. And she'll be like, well, at this age, I don't know. I had a nanny. like, and so Paula was saying how, yeah, like forever, like for certain basically middle to upper class, everyone had a live-in maid. That was just normal. And like, unless you were, particular about it, like you let them wear regular clothes and they felt more like part of the family, right? Like they weren't. And my mom, who studied abroad in Uruguay and then stayed in touch with them still stays in touch with them, they have live-in maids as well. But Paula was saying like now it's harder to have them because they want to live in their own home, like have their own life outside of your house, right?
Yeah.
And Trevor was saying a similar thing of like in Brazil having, a maid or cleaning lady or whatever, and coming, sometimes they just like they'll come in every day or whatever, and how it just sounds so foreign to like Americans in general, right? Like that just sounds like a luxury thing, not like, yeah, like of course you have someone who lives in your house and does everything for you. like that would just be a common thing.
But it is in other places. I've got a friend, where is she from? Is it Morocco? Monaco? No, it begins with an M. Terrible, I should know. Anyway, that's how she grew up. And and it was very much of a caste system as well. So, that hierarchy in society. So
Right. So I'm like, it's so interesting. I forget now what you just said that made me think of that we were talking about it.
I was talking about that I was a substitute teacher. I'm not really downstairs, upstairs.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah. So that's what made me think of it. But so with the crown, what I was thinking of with the way that the queen acted that I liked so much, that you could read so much in her face without her doing much. Okay, so in comparison to I have a group of friends through Paula where like I call them my fancy friends because they like go and do very like cultured things and stuff. And we and a couple of them like are French and then part of the French American Council and stuff. And so they created a group to go see Napoleon when it came out, and I was part of it. So I went with them to see Napoleon, and Joaquin Phoenix, you can't read anything on his face. Like the whole time, he barely speaks. Like here's spoilers for Napoleon. I hope you don't mind.
No, I do want to see it, but no worries. Yeah.
It like I feel like if you go in knowing Napoleon's life and battles and everything very well, and all the politics behind it, you'll be okay. There is like zero like explanation of like anything happening. There's barely any talking. But one of my friends, Kelly, was really funny sitting next to me. She's just like, what? She's like, are we supposed to know where they are right now? Are we supposed to know what's happening?
Uh-huh.
And
Yes,
she's
yes,
like, is there a script to this? I was like, I think a couple people have lines, and the other people are just like riffing off of them.
really. Okay, well, I mental note. So Oppenheimer was,
I
Jose and
didn't
I
see
tried to
that.
watch Oppenheimer, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on.
Is it the same thing? Like
It's a lot of talk,
similar?
and it's some science, a lot of politics, and it's like a trial going on. And I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
I have no idea what the
Like how you
problem
got
is.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. See, I haven't seen it, so I'm like, but I would probably be the same because I don't know enough going into it. So like with Napoleon, I thought, oh, this is like an American-made movie, so clearly they should
yeah,
know that they better explain this to we Americans. Like, no, and it was so distracting. I was like, he has his American accent, and everybody else has like a British accent. All the other French. I was like, can we?
they do that. Why do they do
Can
that?
he, like some award-winning actor? Can he not have like a coach to tell him like how to at least speak with a French accent? This is
Yes.
so ridiculous.
Or
And
make that a
so
requirement. Yeah, no,
it
I
was
can't.
so, yeah, at the very least, use a British accent like the rest of them. You at least sound like the rest of them.
Precisely. Because that's what they used to do in movies. If it was something other than American or British, they would still give them a British accent
British accent.
to indicate that they were foreign.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like,
Yes.
it was just so bizarre, but so, and what's amazing is so, Kelly, she's like an expert in costume design and everything, and actually is like hosting the first, like a French ball. It's like Marie Antoinette period, in January. It's the first one in Orlando, but they happen like all around. And she's been to like the one in Versailles. It's really cool. But she dressed up in like 18th century dresses, and the guys dress up too, and like the wigs and everything. I'm going, of course.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hope you're
cool.
going.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going. And so, but so she's watching this movie, and she's like, they're wearing Regency style dresses. They're not wearing Regency. She was like, the costuming was excellent, but she was like, for the male and female, but she actually like, except it was an inappropriate time period for most of the wife's dresses.
Yes. How
They were like
I
20
can
years too early.
exactly. I can totally relate. So Pride and Prejudice, there's an old American Hollywood version of Pride and Prejudice. It's black and white. I want to say it's Irene Dunn is in it, and they're all wearing Victorian style dresses, big poof skirts,
Yeah,
and big hats and things like that that you would have seen during the time of Victoria or Abraham Lincoln, Civil War. And it's so funny because I would never picked up on that, but knowing what I know now for what I do watch, right. It's like, so yeah, they should have been in Regency style dresses. So
right.
things like that we pick on. Oh, no tea across the miles would be complete without the shot of one
I know,
of
without.
So
I know. It really did take a while for him to hop up here.
It's all good. Going back to the Crown.
Yes.
Unless if I'm interrupting, because I don't want to stop you if you're still going to say.
No, you're not. No, it's fine.
So, and compare and contrast. So the movie The Queen with the Helen Mirren.
Yes.
Big controversy was that they were trying to protect the boys. They did not. They didn't feel this was a public event. She was no longer the HRH. And they were trying to shield the boys from the media and everything, which I can fully appreciate.
Yeah.
But Charles was the only one who really seemed to understand the gravity of how huge this was.
Right, for everybody.
She was a public figure, no matter how much nobody wanted her to be, maybe even herself times. But in The Queen, the Queen did not write her own speech, and I'd be willing to bet she has speech writers, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
In The Crown, they showed her sitting down and penning out the speech she gives from the window. So I thought that was interesting, and I was sitting there watching her. I'm like, she's not writing her own speech. She's not
right. Yeah, I was like, I think she definitely reviews them and probably makes little edits or whatever.
Yes,
Right.
things like
But she's
that.
not like starting from scratch.
No, and it was a very particular and poignant part of the movie because the speechwriters came in and said, we've added and as a grandmother.
Oh, right.
It's like,
Yeah.
because we think that, you know, that makes you more appealing to, and when you watch the movie, at least in Helen Mirren's version, and I'd love to go back and actually watch the actual recording,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
she almost seems to be choking on that word, on those words, you know, like I'm being forced to relate
Right.
when she was no
You're
longer
right.
with his family. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel like from what I remember, the Helen Mirren character was a much harder, like tougher queen, right? Like
yes,
you couldn't see anything. Like I always said, like in The Crown, I love how the queen, how like she's showing, you can read her face without her showing any like real emotion or saying anything.
yes,
You didn't get that out of Helen Mirren, which like nothing against her. I just like the way that The Crown did it. They just like humanized her a little bit more, you know.
yeah. They show the softer, sometimes the humorous side. You know, her quick wit.
Right.
Yeah, and I appreciate that too because yes, Helen Mirren, that particular version she was much more stern.
Right.
Yeah, didn't seem to crack a smile about anything. So
Right.
yeah,
Well, and I thought the funeral part was interesting, like just talking about the funeral, right, and how the boys would have to walk behind the the car and like, and remind me now, who was it that was saying they shouldn't do it? Was it the Queen saying they shouldn't do it that way, or Charles was saying they would have to? Trying to remember who was on which side. I just
I
remember that they said like it basically had to be done because the people needed to see the
yeah
funeral, needed
had to
to see
say
it.
yeah. I think it was the Queen and it was Prince Philip. I want to say
Hmm.
we were all saying this is, you know, they didn't want to do it. The boys didn't want to do it. They did not want to be out
Right.
putting on smiles to calm and comfort these people.
Right.
Their mother, their mother, and their teenagers, and God, just what a horrible thing to have to be put through. But I believe, from what I remember reading, it was Philip who stepped in and said, "I'll do it with you. If we're going to
Okay.
do this, I will do it."
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and that's what I remember from reports or readings and things like that. So yeah,
Because
so
it was like,
yeah, go ahead.
oh no, just to say, because part of that is like, in one of the scenes, right when it was William, right, who's like, I don't understand why everybody cares. Like they didn't know her, right? Like they're
Right,
strangers.
correct.
So like to him, it doesn't even make sense. And again, it's like, well, he's a kid, but also like, you know, Charles is the only one who seems to understand what the impact was and what the feeling is out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you
Yep.
know, he's like, I don't think you're paying attention. Like
And
things
they
are
weren't,
gonna get ugly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they weren't. And what that could have and would have done for Charles' image if they stayed cooped up and did not do that, it
Right.
would have come across as very cold, and that would have fallen on his shoulders in his current reign
Right.
as well.
You're right.
So the relationship between Dodie and
Oh yeah.
Diana was interesting too. Were they not engaged? And the Crown leaves that open. That was an interesting take on why
It,
the dad thought
that's
that
if it was the dad that also was the dad that involved in the matchmaking. Like, was it really him forcing Jodie to hang out with him? Because I mean, I guess he had a fiance, so
yes.
was
I
it
believe
really?
that some of that might be true, but how much I don't know.
Yeah, it's like how much of it is maybe Jodie really was like, I mean, cool, whatever, I'll hang out with her. Like, it's not torture hanging out with her.
Right,
But
right, right.
then, yeah, but it was, but yes, the father is very intense, like, just about everything. And then it is just such a crazy slap in the face when he, like, no one will talk to him, right? Like, he felt like he was so close to the royal family because of Diana. And then when he sends, like, his condolences or whatever, and, like, they won't,
They're ignored. Yeah.
yeah. and it's like the still from the what he owns Harrods and everything, and they're saying that what if they acknowledge him or something, then there'll be the issue of like granting him citizenship, which is what some he's been after forever, and really as a whole, from what I hear from my expat Brits, whatever,
Yes.
that a lot of them are say how yeah, it was a total uh it was just completely unacceptable that he wasn't allowed to be a citizen, and they were saying it was totally because he was Middle Eastern and Muslim. That was like the only reason why they're like he owned parents, like and he was very like loved the English and the crown and like
Oh,
everything,
yeah.
right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So it was very shady to say the least.
Yeah.
That
And
he didn't get to have it. Yeah,
yeah, I think they did a good job showing another perspective because I mean the entire world mourned Diana, but his son
yeah.
died too, and nobody seemed to care, and that had to
Only
sting.
right,
Yeah.
only his side of the world. That was the only one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. So the rest of it continues
Right.
December 14th, if I'm not mistaken. So it's funny that they
Yeah.
split the season the way they did.
Right.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
last however many episodes there will be left.
Right. I don't know. I'm just assuming there will be four since we had four, but I don't know. There'll be more. Or, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
But
What are we gonna watch?
I know. I know. I'm like, well, and I always have the thought. I'm like, I should go back and like start from the beginning because so much of it is like lost. It's time in my head. So I'm like, I should do and then I never do. I
Well, it's
always
funny
think
because I have been because when I'm just to have noise or something to listen to,
yeah,
laundry or something very mundane.
yeah,
Yeah, and I've actually gone back and watched. It was seasons. It's 4 and 5 because we're in 6, aren't we? This is the 6th season.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
so. Yeah.
yeah. So and going back and going, all right, now who was my favorite queen? Who did
Uh,
Elizabeth the best?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think what is her last name? Olivia. I can't
And
think.
all I
She was
remember is Claire Foy, which is the young one.
Therefore was the young one, and it was Olivia. I can't think of her name. You can see her face, but she was the one that had more
She's the
of
middle-aged one.
yes
Yeah.
of the charm and the wit. And
Right.
I think she did that very well. I think she did it very well. She was unfortunately she also met was it at a BAFTA award ceremony or something where she was introduced to William
Oh.
and she said, "I'm Olivia." He says, "Oh yes, I know who you are." I'll just be over here.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So yeah. So I think it's good. The girl who plays and I can't remember her name right now, but who plays Diana, I think she's doing a smashing job. She's brilliant.
Yeah.
Super good.
She's really good with. I mean, she is great the way that she looks like her and how they make her look like her, but also like the way she talks and looks like like her mannerisms and everything. The way she's always kind of tilting her head down and always using her eye, like looking up
Yes.
at her
Yeah.
eyes. Like it is. Yeah. It's really good. I almost like forget what Diana really looks like because I just picture her. Like I saw a picture of like Diana and I was like, oh yeah, I guess there's a little bit of
Right, right. She does a very good job. They
yeah,
cast her very well. I thought that
yeah.
was very good.
And I thought Harry is like looks very Harry and was good at like carrying himself like Harry. I knew like William was not going to look exactly like William, especially if you were someone who was obsessed with him when he was that age. You would know his face very well. But
right.
um, and I knew like because the Royal podcast I listened to, like they had mentioned that they had seen pictures ahead of time. They're like, William, but apparently they claim that like in the auditions, like he came in audition and they were like, "This is our William." So however he like just carried himself and spoke, and I did feel like he definitely carried himself like William did at that age, like shoulders over, always kind of like shy and whatever. Like he's tall, but never standing straight
Right.
up. He's just kind of like shy, like
Well, wardrobe was so
teenager.
key too. I mean, they had him in the khaki pants with the rolled up
Yeah,
sleeves, and they've got the hair and everything else. So
yeah, they did do it.
it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
enough that you can look at that and go, oh, that's who he is. So
Right, right.
yeah.
And so when they did the photo shoot in Scotland with the boys, uh, what was great? So I told you I was watching with my mom, who has not seen any of the
Right,
other Crown
right,
stuff, and she knew that like this show, not everything is real, right? Like it's not historically accurate all the time. And so, but so she was like, "So do you think this really happened?" To go, I looked at it, of course this happened. Like
yes.
everybody knows this picture, doesn't it? And like, oh, probably not. It's probably just if you were obsessed with him.
Yes.
I went like during when we paused the show, I literally went over to my bookshelf, grabbed one of my very many Prince William books, looked it up, and was like, "See,
There it is.
there it is. Same with their dad."
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
That people that don't know. And that's why I said, my sister, who thought, oh, I thought this was based on, no, nobody was ever party to any of those conversations.
right, right, yeah, and
So,
and all, and now it's like I feel like everyone who's a palace source or whatever, or an anonymous friend, like all of that stuff just seems like garbage now. Like you can't trust any of it, even if some of them were real palace inside, like really knew something. There's so many times that same wording is used for like the tabloids and whatever to
right.
just come up with like crazy stories that are not true. So it's like, well, how are we supposed to know? Like
You
it's
you don't. And that's,
a real source or not?
hence the point of Harry's book, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of them, they just, is it me? Or are they just like out of the headlines? I do
Yeah,
not
as
know
far
anything.
as I know, because like I don't, yeah, because I don't, you know me, I'm never always up to date with headlines, but I feel like certain things trickle their way to me where people are just like, oh, what about Harry and Meghan? Are they going to like I heard this is happening, and I'm like, oh, is that what's happening right now? Is that
Yeah.
what's being said? And yeah, you're
Um,
right. I haven't heard anything about him really.
well, okay, so the Omid Scobie book, and because that name just because it just is fun to say Omid Scobie. Omid Scobie. It's
Yeah.
like I'm talking gibberish. The author of oh doggone, and I had the stupid book in my head. Oh, and the Ender's Game, Endgame
Endgame.
book that came out and has actually named Prince Charles and Kate as the ones who questioned the color of Meghan and Harry's babies.
Oh,
Now,
really?
what is that?
Again.
Is somebody liking us?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I don't know what it is.
because we were
Yeah,
live.
because we
Anyway,
weren't live when it happened earlier.
no,
I
the
don't know
audience
what that
saw
is.
the big old white thumb up here. Yay!
Yeah, if anybody's watching this later and sees the little thumb up, leave a comment if you know why this happened.
don't
We
know.
don't know how to trigger it.
It's the ghost of Christmas present. I don't know.
Right.
um. Anyway, so I guess I don't know who Owen Scobie is or Endgame, whatever. And it's the British version or American versions did not print those names, but I think it was like the Scandinavian version
Wow.
in another country named Charles and Kate as the ones who were party to the conversation about the
Right.
color of the skin.
Interesting.
So, again, true, not true, don't know. You
Right.
and I beat that horse to death about the conjecture and the hearsay and the
Right.
what could have taken place, that it could be as simple as, oh, I wonder, everybody wonders what your children are going to look like. I mean,
Right.
I possibly even parents of mixed races probably
Yeah,
said,
that's what. Yeah, Trevor. Yeah, that's what Trevor. Yeah, that's what Trevor said. He was like, that would be like as well. It's depending on the tone it was asked in, right? Like you said, like it could be a very just like off the cuff thought question.
yes,
Right?
yes.
And
But if,
even
oh my gosh, what if their
yeah,
skin is really, then that I can understand. But none of us were there.
no,
In the meantime, Kate and Will and Charles and Camilla, they've been doing all their royal engagements. I think there was one yesterday or the day before. Kate wore a gorgeous rose gold gown. She wears
but
pantsuits. I mean, I just really feel like that the second, I hate to say that, but the second the queen died, they really have come into their own. And whoever they've hired as their media specialist on their Instagram or whatever, brilliant. I mean, they
really good.
really have wrangled the professional appeal as well as
Right.
the common man appeal of, hey, we are working people. We are out here doing this, and this is what we're doing. And I love it. I think it's really great to see. And when you consider, because how old is Charles? 76, 77 now? What did we say?
He just turned 75. They just had his
75.
75th birthday. Yeah.
All right, okay. So what have we got? Let's say at best we have another, if he has his mother's longevity, then he's another 20 years.
Yeah.
And how old is Will? 42?
Yeah, yeah, something like that. When was he born?
So he could be taking over when he's 60 something.
Yeah.
So it'll just be really interesting to see how they continue to stay modern, if you will,
Right.
keep their finger on the pulse of everything. I'm not saying that Elizabeth was too old to do the job. I'm not saying that at
Right.
all. But she was not in touch with how things get done today. And and I think they've done an excellent job of kind of, you know, bringing that forward. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're right. I was trying to look up to see Kate's dress that you're talking about.
Oh, it's so but she's stunning and everything.
Oh wow. Yeah, she is. But you were mentioning like what she's been wearing since what feels like since the Queen's passing. So again, on the podcast I listened to, they were commenting on how they feel like she must have a new stylist or something because they feel like there has been a change and it's way more just kind of unique or whatever, right? Like it's not so bland or too traditional conservative, right? Like it's a little bit more fun.
Correct. She'll show up with
a
pair of jeans on. She'll show up with, you know, the pants that Elizabeth said, you know, never under my reign. Women will always wear skirts. Yeah. Sure. She's
right. So that's what they're thinking. But also they talk about what Prince George is probably already 10 or something. And
yes,
they were talking about how it's like, yeah, basically we're really close to being where people only care about those three kids, right? Like
right.
William's already, I mean, Kate helps keep him a little bit more probably center stage, but
right.
But like, you know, he's gonna be older, like you said. He might be in his 60s, 50s, 60s, right? Whenever he becomes king. So, but more likely sooner, you know, George is gonna be like 15 or something, and then that's essentially like when we were all paying attention to them.
Yes.
So we'll be looking on, because yeah, actually, so Piper's stepmom, they watch The Crown too. And when I talked to her, they hadn't gotten through all the new episodes yet, just like the first one. But she, of course, asked me, she's like, so how long do you think the monarchy is really going to last? I was like, I mean, they're going to keep going.
Yeah, I
was like, they've made it. I feel like we've made it this far, like into Charles, but I feel like, knock on wood, we're okay now. Like, I feel like the big, like, holding your breath moment was like when the Queen passed and we needed to see if like Charles could hold it. I feel like he's holding it fine. Right? So like, yeah. So, and then it's like, and then William, you know, everybody loves William, even if he's not as hot as he once was.
No, he's not, but he has a pretty wife.
Yeah, hot wife.
Yeah, and they get, you know, they're not reigning, but they're doing so much of their charity work. It's because I'm looking at this website, www.royal.uk, and the king visits Dubai to attend some conference, whatever. The Duchess of Edinburgh and Colombia. The Princess of Wales visits Sebi's Corner Baby Bank. You just go through Her Majesty the Queen hosted a reception for Booker Prize Foundation. State visit of the President of the Republic of Korea. The Queen celebrates 135 years of the foreign press.
Yeah, they have.
out there doing their things, and because they are trying to prove their worth and their value.
Sure.
Not
Yeah.
to mention and I don't know how much, and this could be argued. I know when the Queen was in reign,
Mhm.
she was England. So people,
Yeah.
that was part of the tourism is, seeing her
Right.
face and her profile and things like that. I
Right.
just don't feel like Charles is so much of that anymore, but maybe
Well, I think it's also because he's a new king, right? Like he
yes,
came into being a queen so long ago that maybe it wasn't like she didn't become queen instantly, right? Or I mean, she didn't become like the face of England instantly,
true,
right? It, like
yes.
she was on for so long, and I guess she had her rougher years in what like the 70s or whatever when people were talking about like getting rid of the monarchy and different things like that. But so I think, but she like pulled through, like came back on the other side where everybody loves her again. But I think uh, with the monarchy though as a whole, like he may not be the face of England, right? Like the Queen may forever be who we picture, but still, I think tourism wise, if they don't have a working monarchy, it it loses its luster of going and visiting
I agree.
the palaces or whatever, because it's like, yeah, they can go visit like anywhere, and there aren't the real people are long gone and they're not living there anymore, right? It's like this, this is still something that's happening. That's cool. That's different.
Absolutely. It is what England is. I mean, it is part of their fabric. It is what
Right.
England is. So yeah, I find it hard to believe that if they did without it, yeah, I don't know.
What it would look like. I
What does
mean,
it look like? But I do see it paring down a lot. I see, I mean, it is a lot of money. It's funny because one of the things that I just went back and watched was that episode where Philip went on an American program. This is back in the 60s, 70s, and complained about how they didn't have they needed to get a new yacht because the yacht was falling apart. And that just did not resonate well with people, like, whoa, poor little,
yeah,
Prince
yeah, yeah.
here doesn't have his yacht.
Right, right.
So and Prince Charles is known for having said, and they even featured that in one of the episodes of The Crown last year, was getting rid of the fringe,
Oh, so you said
and
I didn't remember
paring
that.
down
Yeah.
to just the
Oh, right. Yes.
royals. Yes.
Right, right. And
So
that's and I think that's fine. Yeah, it's like you don't need everybody in the family to keep it a working monarchy, like tourist wise, right? Like the tourists don't. I'm sorry, the tourists don't care about all the siblings down the line
no, they
or the
don't.
cousins, right? It's like no, just like who are the main
Yes,
2 to 4 people or whatever.
exactly.
Like
Exactly. Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
so I'm
Well,
of course hopeful for them.
yeah, I am too. I'd hate to see it. Part of me would die.
So, I know. I can't handle it. You better not do it.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, I hate to cut this short, but it is the Christmas season, and I have buku shopping to do before I work the rest of the week. And my
Okay,
husband
no problem.
will here too. So anyway, all right. Well, after the holiday,
Wonderful. After the holidays, yeah, after let's say late January, because the French ball is January 14th, so I can report on the French ball.
oh, that would be great. I'd love to hear about it. I'm actually coming down to Orlando for my nephew's wedding at the end of January.
Really?
Yes, I don't know
Gonna
how
be
much
a
time
busy
I know it's always like, you're gonna meet. I'm like, I have this much time for family stuff,
Yeah,
but if
right.
I'll see if there's something, if we can meet somewhere just to have a
Yeah,
cup somewhere and a hug and
absolutely.
actually meet you.
I know, right? And I'll come to you, so wherever in
Oh, you're
Orlando
sweet. But
you
we'll see
are.
how things are at that point. We'll see where you are in
Yeah,
your job hunt and everything else.
right.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, so listen, and we don't have to send anything. We're tea pals. If you've got one particular tea, send me one particular tea. Tiny
Okay.
little envelope, don't have to spend a lot of money sending me a package, but or just, pick your favorite tea and we'll just chat like we always do. Cause by then the second half of The Crown will be over too, and we can dissect that.
Oh, right. Yes, so we'll have lots to talk about again.
So anyway, it's great to see
Wonderful.
you. If I don't talk to you again, happy Christmas. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Keep texting me. I just like.
I will. Yes, yes. And thank you. And I would like to point out, yes, Trevor, we are saying happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. One to all. All right, hon. Well, you take
That's
care.
wonderful.
Great. Good luck in everything.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Cheery, bye.
Bye. Are you